Welcome back to the Ideal Cars channel. I hope that you guys are having an ideal day. Today, let's talk about the Audi R8. So, about a year ago, before I realized how hard and costly it was to grow a YouTube channel full time, I was in the market for an Audi R8. And after building out the Ideal Cars desirability guide for the R8, which is something I'll cover with you guys later on, I found a car that ticked almost every single one of my boxes. It was a great spec, ibis white, black interior, carbon package, and the gear banging 6-speed. The car was located down south in Houston, Texas, and I got a pre-purchase inspection and it passed with flying colors. Now, I had already secured financing and negotiated a price, so all I had to do was call the Ford dealership and tell them that I wanted it. But the salesman Joe told me that some dude had walked in earlier that morning and paid full asking price. I guess that's just how life goes sometimes, huh? Looking back, everything happens for a reason, and I was fortunately able to dump all my Audi R8 fund and then some into funding my full-time YouTube channel. But ever since I saw the Audi R8 back in 2008 in the flesh, I knew that one day I was going to own one. Now, all I need is just a lot more subscribers to make that dream a reality. Until then though, let's chat about why Audi built the R8. And then I want to take you through the differences and the kind of enhancements that they did for each model year. After that, I'm going to rate it in 4 different categories using the Ideal Cars rating system. And lastly, I'm going to give you my ideal spec for an Audi R8. Now, if you have an idea of what your ideal spec would be, let us know in the comments. You know, Ideal Cars is all about creating just an open forum for next generation enthusiasts. So let us know what exterior color, interior color, transmission preference, and any other options or mods you'd want on it. All right, so the Audi R8 is a mid-engine 2-seater sports car that uses Audi's legendary Quattro all-wheel drive system, which inspires utter confidence even at the limit. The R8 is the perfect blend of explosive performance and exotic presence. Heck, even the road-going R8s rely on the same engineering expertise that went into Audi's race cars of the early 2000s. The flagship supercar of the Audi brand holds its own from a dig and in the twisties. It's just a fantastic package, but there were a few different variations of the R8 from 2008 all the way to 2015. So let's dig into those now. The first generation of the Audi R8 actually had a pretty long production run. And 2008 was the first year. The only motor that was available was the potent 4.2 liter V8 pushing out 420 horsepower to the all-wheel drive system that had a 70% rear torque bias. Donuts, anyone? You could get a 6-speed manual sourced from a Lamborghini or the R8 transmission that was operated with paddles. But what's awesome about the manual 6-speed is that it is a gated shifter, which sounds so satisfying when you make an ideal shift. Now, you could not order carbon fiber options from the factory, but you could get the carbon side blades, which not only look incredible, but also act as a cover for the R8's rear wheel cooling vents. Also, adaptive suspension or magnetic ride was an option. The cars fitted with it were notorious for leaky shocks. Oh, and it sported quad tips, which I thought kind of looked a little funky exiting through those round holes. It was essentially the same car. Huge changes this year because Audi introduced an entirely new engine for the lineup, a V10. Essentially, they took the motor from an LP560, which is a V10 from Lamborghini, slightly detuned it, threw on a different intake and an exhaust. The naturally aspirated V10 makes 525 horsepower compared to the LP560's 553 horsepower. So, not too shabby. I think that they detuned it for marketing purposes so it didn't beat its bigger brother. But boy, it sounded good. Woohoo, that sounds good. Now, you in 2010 could order the V8 or V10 with the same gated 6-speed or the R8 transmission. But if you ordered the V10, you got gloss black rear bumper inserts and new oval exhaust tips. The side blades are slightly larger on the V10. You get a slightly more aggressive side skirt and different grille and new wheels. And actually, this is something a lot of people don't know, which is really cool about the 2010 and newer Audi R8. They offered full LED headlights. And what's so cool about it is that they incorporated 24 individual LEDs to honor the Audi success at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I absolutely love it when car manufacturers sprinkle in subtle touches like that. boom, a Spyder. Yeah, this was the first year that you could order a topless R8 with either the V8 or V10. But Audi decided to change the actual design and remove those signature carbon side blades. And instead, they put side intake vents. This was a controversial move because without the side blades, dare I say, the car looks more like a bloated Audi TT than Audi's flagship supercar. What do you think? Well, dieting must have been a big thing in 2012 because that's exactly what Audi did and introduced the GT spec R8 for both the coupe and the Spyder. Essentially, it's kind of like when Lamborghini offers the Superleggera. Pretty much the R8 GT was focused on shaving as many pounds as possible. And these skinny R8s were produced in very limited numbers. In fact, only 90 coupes and 50 Spyders were made for the US market. And how can you spot one of these in the wild? Well, for starters, they came with a fixed rear wing and other aero enhancements, clear taillights with modified front and rear bumpers. Also, if you peek inside, the interior will be heavily optioned with Alcantara. There were no Audi R8s produced this year because Audi was going through a midlife update. Let's carry on. The last 2 years of the Audi R8 Gen 1, and the midlife update did not disappoint. Audi introduced the new S-tronic transmission, which was a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission with lightning-fast shifts. The 4.2-liter V8 got a bump in horsepower to 430 horses, and both bumpers were reworked, and the V8 and V10 both got oval exhaust tips. Also, Audi redesigned the LED headlights and tails, and now you could option the R8 with ceramic brakes. The interior was upgraded, and there was an optional cross-stitching that made it look like a fine-tailored suit. But before Audi dropped the mic, it had one trick left up its sleeve for the first gen R8, and that was the introduction of the V10 Plus trim for the coupe. The V10 Plus model is backed by a 550 horsepower V10, massive carbon ceramic brakes, and a firmer suspension that was found on the R8 GT. Oh, and 0 to 60 in a blistering 3.3 seconds, and it could top out at 198 miles per hour. The V10 Plus could give any supercar a run for its money. So guys, that is what you can expect from each model year. Now, I'm going to dig into performance, driving experience, curb appeal, and value for the Audi R8, and rate each category on a scale from 1 to 5. Now guys, as we've seen, R8s vary quite a bit in performance, from the R8 V8 that goes 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, all the way to the V10 Plus that does a blistering 3.3 seconds. So for this rating, I'm going to use a car that I'm really familiar with. It's a 2010 R8 V10 with the R-tronic. The 2010 R8 V10 does 0 to 60 in just 3.7 seconds, which is dead even with a GT2. And its top speed is 196 miles per hour. And that V10 absolutely loves to rev. The motor has no lack of power all the way to its glorious 8,700 RPM redline. The car is extremely communicative even at the limit of adhesion, with a slight hint of understeer. The brakes worked exactly as you'd expect, and this is almost too easy to drive at the limit. So for performance, this car gets a 4.5 out of 5. Once you hop into that driver's seat, you can tell this is an Audi. It's just nice. The flat bottom steering wheel is just one of the many touches that makes this car feel special. And on the road, it's extremely easy to drive around town. But when things get a little bit twisty, this thing has cat-like reflexes. The V10 makes beautiful music, and the R-tronic transmission is magical when you're driving fast. It's seriously a great compliment to the V10. The V10 R8 is the kind of supercar that you could live with every single day. So I give it a 4.6 out of 5. Is that the Iron Man car? Now, I know that movie is roughly, 10 years old, but the car debuting in that hit film burned the R8 into most of our memories. The R8 is simultaneously gorgeous and sinister. Almost every single time that you fill this car up with gas, someone's gonna come up to you and ask you a question or two about the car. It just attracts attention. The Audi R8 just seems so much more approachable than, say, like a Lamborghini Gallardo. It may have something to do with the 4 rings or the softer features, but everywhere you go, you're bound to get at least a thumbs up. It's just an extremely fun car to be around, and it does lack a little bit of that rawness that a Ferrari or Lambo gives you. So for curb appeal, I'm gonna give it a 4.3 out of 5. If you're a supercar bargain hunter, the Audi R8 should just be on your short list. The cars are holding value extremely well. If you take a look at the right side of the graph, it shows you what type of depreciation each model year has seen over the last 12 months. The 2014 model year depreciated the most at less than 9%. And as you can see in the graph, as of January 2018, almost every model year is roughly flatlined. So yeah, if you're not a full-time YouTuber like me and you actually are in a financial position to purchase a first-gen R8, now is a great time to start looking. So for value, I give it 4.5 out of 5. Wow, that Audi R8 did awesome with a total score of 17.9 out of 100. Now, if we times it by 5, we get 89.5 out of 100. That's an amazing machine. In fact, the Audi R8 is the reason I created the Ideal Car Strategies in the first place. I bought, sold, and made money driving a lot of ideal cars. But the Audi R8 was the first one that I really realized that there was an actual science behind making calculated buying decisions so that you can go into your ideal car purchase knowing exactly what your ownership experience will look like. And you can fully enjoy your asset. Whether you're buying a Subaru STI or your first supercar, I've found a way that you can identify and then properly negotiate to the ideal price, build your credit, and get the lowest monthly terms, and then at the end of it all, maximize profit when it's time to sell. It's a strategy that can be used over and over and over again, and it will completely change the way that you look at ideal car ownership. So what would be my ideal spec R8 for the Ideal Car Strategies? Well, just like my tennis game, I'm a little bit more about control than power. And after driving a V8 6-speed, it just felt a little bit more like a balanced package. Don't get me wrong, I love the V10, but it's just too easy to drive at the limit. Where the V8, you just feel like you really have to work hard to achieve a truly rapid pace. So the ideal spec would be pretty much the exact car that I lost last year. It'd be a 2009 or 2010 Ibis White with black interior, exposed carbon side lids because you could get them painted as well, carbon interior, and engine bay. I'd swap out the quad exhaust tips for oval exhaust tips, put on a black optic grille to get rid of the license plate holder, drop it on some coils to get rid of that mag suspension, and I'd be set. Yeah, and with the market being the way it is, I bet I could drive that car for 12 to 18 months and most likely break even. So there you have it. That is my ideal spec for an Audi R8. In the comments, let us know, would you get the R-Tronic or the 6-speed gated shifter? V8 or V10? Let us know what your ideal spec would be for the Audi R8. And as always, I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this vid, smash the like button. And also, if you're new here and you want to see an Audi R8 on the channel, subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll get there one day. Oh, and if you want to see what the most and least reliable generation Audi S4 is, click over here. And if you want to see what YouTube recommends you watch next, click over here. Either way, you can't lose. And as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle.